the world, to me, had always ended exactly at the horizon I could see from the hill behind our house. My name was simply Aveline, a sound lost to the wind along with the bleating of sheep and the crackle of dry firewood. My hands never knew softness. They are the map of a life spent in silence, shaped by the weight of the hoe and the roughness of coarse linen that Martha, my mother, wove by the light of candles that burned out far too early. I looked at her, and at Silas, my father, figures bent by labor, their skin weathered by the sun like old leather, and in them I saw my only possible destiny. I believed my future was planted in those same furrows of earth, where Silas insisted on sowing life, year after year, against cutting winds and unforgiving frost. There was a peace in that ignorance, a stillness born of honest exhaustion. We were part of the landscape, as permanent as the stones along the road. Everything changed on a morning thick with fog. The sound was not thunder, but horses, hooves. Many of them, heavy, rhythmic. When the metallic gleam cut through the mist, I felt the dread of someone who knows history rarely knocks on a peasant's door to bring good news. I saw Silas drop his tool with a tremor I had never seen in him, and Martha retreat into the half-light, her hand pressed to her chest as if guarding a secret about to break years of silence.
As this story unfolds, grant us your favor, stay within our circle, and keep watch, and tell us, where do you think this path will lead?
Captain Thorne, a man clad in silver and scars, dismounted with a weight that seemed to tilt the ground itself. He did not bring eviction orders. He brought a parchment bearing the royal seal and the gaze of someone delivering an impossible mission. It was there, amid the smell of hay and the sweat of labor, that Thorne's words altered my identity. He told me about King Alaric. He spoke of a throne left solitary, after the other heirs had departed for eternal rest. I was not the seed of that farm. I was the crown's last remaining light, hidden by Silas and Martha, so the intrigues of the court would not reach me. I did not want to go. Fear of the unknown clawed at my throat. That world of towering stone and invisible laws felt like an icy abyss, a place where the heart is lost among marble corridors. I looked at my dirty nails and at Silas's tired face, begging him to say it was all a mistake. But his gaze was one of absolute surrender. They had loved me in anonymity, but now the kingdom demanded its share. The departure was a slow farewell. Martha's final embrace smelled of rosemary, and of an ache already beginning. I mounted the white horse, feeling the heavy velvet thorn cast over my shoulders, hiding my mended clothes. As the small mud cabin faded into the distance, I felt I was being taken to a fortress of gold. The road to the capital was a journey through a country I no longer recognized, a land of weary people, who watched the royal escort with eyes full of bitterness. My first months in Alaric's palace were a battle against isolation. The castle was a labyrinth of echoes, where the scent of incense tried to mask the coldness of the corridors. King Alaric was a man marked by time, a sovereign, who saw in me his people's last chance. The nobles looked at me with sharpened disdain. To them I was merely the girl from the dirt, occupying a place that did not belong to me by the rules of etiquette. They expected me to lose myself in protocol, and to sign papers that would increase the burden on people like my parents. They tried to teach me to speak delicately, and to forget the weight of a bundle of firewood. But how could I forget the effort behind every grain of wheat when touching a crystal goblet? That was when reluctance turned into resolve. I accepted the crown, but I refused to accept the kingdom as it was. I did not let stone shape me. I began shaping the kingdom with the truth I had learned in the fields. I brought Silas's wisdom to the council tables. If a plant does not grow, you do not punish the leaf, you nourish the root. I began removing advisors who thought only of banquets, and calling upon those who understood the value of labor. I used the royal treasury to dig wells, build communal granaries, and ensure that no father would have to hide his child to protect him from misery. The kingdom began to change color. The grey of sorrow gave way to the green of hope. People on the roads no longer lowered their heads out of fear, but out of a new respect. I changed the laws, turned soldiers into builders, and made the castle a place of open doors. The unknown I had once feared became my home, and I transformed it not with brute force, but with the honesty of one who knows dignity is born from the ground. Those who once whispered against me in the corridors now bowed, not out of obligation, but because their children's bellies were full and their lands were protected. Today the sun rises over an empire that no longer fears the shadows. I walk through the palace galleries, and no longer see only luxury. I see purpose. The tapestries now tell the stories of peasants and artisans, not only Alaric's military conquests. My shoes are made of fine leather, but my feet still remember the feel of damp earth at dawn, and it is that memory that keeps me steady. I have won. I rose from the silence of a cabin to the command of a world, and I did not have to lose my essence to do so. On the contrary, it was my essence that saved this throne. I feel more alive and powerful than ever. Each law I sign feels like a seed of prosperity, each decision a shield for the small and forgotten. I am no longer the girl who feared tomorrow. I am the woman who defines the tomorrow of millions. But fate is an implacable sower, and the harvest of power is a solitary one. When King Alaric departed, leaving me alone before an empty throne, something within me hardened for good. I took absolute control. Without his presence, the justice I once sought began to turn into a cold, unquestionable order. I realized that the people's gratitude is like a summer rain, brief. Fear, however, fear is like winter. It endures. I became bitter. With every decree, with every conspiracy crushed beneath my heel, I felt the poison of authority coursing faster through my veins. I learned that weeds do not wait for dialogue. They must be torn out by the root. I began to see betrayal in every whisper and insolence in every lowered gaze. Martha and Silas now live in a house surrounded by immaculate gardens, yet their eyes avoid mine. They see the face of the daughter they raised, but they no longer recognize the soul of the sovereign I have become. They fear the queen as much as the dukes who now grovel in my presence. Their love was the soil of my childhood, but under the harsh sun of my reign, that love seems to have dried up. Often, at dusk, I climb the highest tower. Below, I watch the lights of the villages ignite, but I no longer feel the same joy. I see only subjects. The scent of rain still reaches me, but now it reminds me of the cold earth that once buried me, and I swore I would never return below. I am no longer the girl who waited for tomorrow. I am the storm that decides whether there will be a tomorrow for this kingdom. I am Aveline, the queen who sprouted from the mud and conquered the sun, only to discover that the sun burns everything it touches. My name is now thunder that silences dissent. I rose from the mire to become absolute, and I discovered that the highest place in the world is also the coldest. I look to the horizon and do not smile. I merely observe what is mine by right of force. The unknown no longer frightens me. It bows. The world is silent, for justice has bloomed with iron thorns, and I am the only hand capable of holding it without bleeding. Once I feared the stones in the road. Today I am the very rock that nothing can move.
If this tale has pleased your heart, grant us your favor and stand beside us.
And if you wish to hear many more, join us and keep watch for what comes next.